All right, so describe how events like Kristallnacht and the creation of the Nuremberg laws occurred in Germany under Hitler's regime. So, how could ordinary citizens? So, think about the Hitler Youth. Think about the neighbors, right? Friends of these people now all of a sudden turn into enemies. Okay, commit such acts of hate against other ethnic cultural groups. So, think about how the state, how Hitler tried to indoctrinate the people, how they try to sway the decision making, the mindset of the people. So, there you go. All right, so the night of broken glass here. So what you read about this yesterday, but we also talked about it. Okay, so when it came down to it, what was the excuse by the Nazis, by Goebbels, who is the propaganda minister, and Hitler to unleash these attacks on Jewish people within Germany? Mark. Yeah, diplomat, right? Okay, all right, yeah. So when we talked a little bit about the Nuremberg laws already in 1935, how they were issued to try to segregate Jewish people from German society, from German citizens, and wear the Star of David on their jackets, place them in their windows, place them in businesses, right? To show, emphasize that you need to try to either bully, harass these people, or just boycott their business, boycott their restaurants, right? And we talked about how relationships were forbidden. You're allowed to have any type of marriage, relationship with a Jewish person and a German citizen. Okay, now leading up to this here, right, we already kind of see Hitler's viewpoints. I already mentioned how he expressed them in Mein Kampf, My Struggle, that book he wrote in jail. And he's really unveiling this plan from the very beginning. Now, as the fear of the supreme leader, see these walls created in 1935. And then the Olympic Games came around. They kind of pushed things, brushed things under the carpet a little bit to hide it from the rest of the world. And then in 1938, there was a Nazi diplomat in Paris that was killed by a Polish Jew. And this caused this hysteria, this paranoia. And another case is for the Germans to unleash these acts of terror on the Jewish citizens, Jewish people who were citizens of Germany. But in any case, this unleashed these acts of hatred on the people. So with Crystal Love, what did the Hitler Youth, the citizens of Germany, the SA, the SS, what did they target? What did they target? Go ahead, Connor. Synagogues. Yeah, good job. Synagogues, right? Places of worship. So churches, destroyed them. Good. Burned them to the ground. What else? Parker. Yeah, homes and businesses, right? So destroying it. Okay, the name kind of broken glass, crystal night, right? Comes from the shattered glass all over the streets, from these businesses, from these homes, the synagogues, the places of worship, right? And the goal was to try to rid them from society, try to push them out of these German villages, towns, and cities all across Germany. It lasted a couple days. Right? What else? What? The graveyards. Yeah, good job, right? So the cemeteries, the graveyards. Why would they target the graveyard, cemeteries? Well, why?
They wanted to make sure that there was no sign of anywhere. So
yeah, good job, right? So any type of linkage that they might have from these German towns and cities, these villages, right? Try to eliminate their history, eliminate their, I guess you'd say their ancestry from these areas. Okay, just totally erase them from German culture, German society, history. So yeah, they're targeting many of these locations, different types of learning centers, schools, maybe museums, libraries, and destroying any type of literature that might link back to this Jewish heritage, this Jewish culture. Burning the books, you name it, right? So we talked yesterday about how these ordinary citizens, these German citizens, the Hitler Youth, right? Why they would target these people that were once, maybe at one point, friends, neighbors, obviously. They lived side by side, lived together, right? Why would they target them? Why would they show these acts of hatred? What changed in their mind? Go ahead, Parker. Exactly, right? So the propaganda, especially, right? We talked about the Hitler Youth organizations, how education was indoctrinated with the Nazi themes, Nazism, right? So yeah, with this constant brainwashing, this constant propaganda, and also we already mentioned it, with Hitler under his rule, did Germany get out of this depression? Yeah, right. People had jobs now. Okay, now which we're going to talk about today, they're starting to build up their military. So nationalism is being infused back into the lives of the people. So yeah, he's kind of actually answering some of the questions that were residing after World War I. He's been delivering on the promises that he gave to the people of Germany. So yeah, right, they're getting a lot of the promises that he laid out from the very beginning. So that's kind of how these people of Germany, the youth, the citizens, the neighbors, the friends, community members, kind of turned on the Jewish population and just followed blindly to Hitler's directives, to his guidelines. Pretty sad stuff. So, like I said with Crystal Knock, this is kind of the next step here to what we know as the Holocaust. Right. So yesterday, your assignment, okay, there were a few words in there where the German officials, the Nazi officials, would try to kind of desensitize the situation. What were some of those words? What were some of those sayings they would talk about? Some of them were actually over these signs at many of these concentration camps. One being Auschwitz. Remember, Connor. Yeah, work makes you free. That was one of them, right? And they kind of just disgusting, like laugh about it, right? Joke about it, knowing that, yeah, you know what, it's not going to really happen. Right? Good. Anything else? Any other terms? Connor? Harvest Festival. Yeah. So those really stuck out for me in the reading, just kind of how they laughed about it and really just showed how they really believed the Jewish minority groups in Germany, the Jewish people there were viewed as really lesser, undesirable, below than below what we know as the subhumans they would call it, right? And it's really harsh discussing. Chris, yeah, what is that here?
That's special treatment.
Special treatment. Yeah, good, good. So yeah, they were all listed there towards the end of the article, and it just really stuck out to me in any case. All right, is there any questions? So make sure you have that assignment turned in. Right, I'll have that graded by the end of the day today. All right. Also, I want to just kind of give you a rundown of what I'm expecting here in the next week or so. We will have a map quiz start of next week. All right, so I'm thinking more on maybe even Monday, Tuesday, right? And then we are finishing the causes, the lead up, the build up to World War II. So today we're going to kind of mention the start of it with the invasion of Poland. Okay, as we're talking about Hitler's foreign policy, so this is going to be the first test of this chapter. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there for you so that you know what to expect for next week. I will have a study guide, but won't be as many questions as before. Right? So I'm kind of limiting them down a little bit more. Think why I traveled. No, I'm just joking. Just doing running joke for third period. Okay. All right. So here are your terms for today. So we're going to talk about Hitler's foreign policy, and tomorrow's kind of going to be kind of like a competition. See exactly how you would go about deciding Germany's expansion under the Nazi rule. So we'll see how that goes, and whoever wins that competition will get an extra credit point on their test. So it's a good review of what we're going to be talking about today. What did you say? Oh, okay. All right. We'll see. We'll see.
So Holocaust is what I agree. Your voice.
All right. So we got Lebensraum, appeasement, Munich conference, Neville Chamberlain. What? Okay. Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. So German Soviet non-aggression pact. There you go. That's just another name for it to make it a little bit easier. So if you're maybe writing this for a, I don't know, short answer question on the test, you can just refer to it as that. All right, there you go. There you go. So I'll give you some time, write these terms down, and we'll move on. All right, okay. So Lebensraum, what does that mean? What does Lebensraum mean? So this is a German word. What does this mean? Chris, go ahead.
Things based.
Living space. Well, go ahead.
So basically the doctrine that Germany should be allowed to stay.
All right, good job, good job. So for Hitler, as he's coming into power, and even before, when he's writing Mein Kampf, his goal is to try to claim back these lands that Germany lost after World War One. Right. So what was that treaty called again, where it restricted, took away their territories, pushed their borders back in a little bit? Connor, the Treaty of Versailles. Good job. So Hitler, utilizing the Treaty of Versailles as fuel, right, to try to advance his nationalistic aims, his goals. And one thing that he really invoked in the German people is that he was going to claim back these lands that Germany lost. All right, so with doing that, okay, his goal is to try to get more living space for the Aryan culture, the Aryan race, obviously German society, as he talks about, as he discusses. So Lebensraum is living space, right? Claiming more land, claiming these territories back, these lands back that Germany once had. Also, in these lands, what do you think they speak? German, right? So they have German culture. They speak the German language. And this is a way for Hitler to try to, in a way, communicate to the Allies saying, well, it should be ours. And here they are speaking German. They have German culture. There's constant different types of conflicts and grievances build up in these new lands because they're not a part of originally what they should be, Germany, right? So with that, Lebensraum means living space. Okay, so with that, we'll mention these other terms here as we go through the slideshow. All right, so the first thing Hitler does here, obviously when he comes to power, right, the Nuremberg laws were placed out there. Kristallnacht was placed out there. We talked about how he increased the economy of Germany through these tough times after World War One. And he gained a lot of support, a lot of popularity with people. And yeah, it's just crazy to think how many people, citizens, right, Hitler used, right, how they would join the side of him and just kind of follow him blindly. But you got to think of Germany's state after World War One. They're going through that depression. They're going through a lot of hardships. All of a sudden, Hitler comes in with the use of propaganda, indoctrination. But at the same time, he was going through with a lot of his promises when it comes to giving the people jobs, curbing inflation, raising the standard of living for the German people. So things under his leadership when it comes to economic needs, we're going in the right direction. He's also inspiring nationalism, once again, to the German people. So this was building a lot of popularity for him. I'm not going to say everybody was all for it, but for the most part, we see the German people seeing this new breath of nationalism once again under his rule. So with that, okay, his goal from the very beginning too is to claim back these lands that Germany lost after World War One. Okay, to increase Lebensraum, this living space for the Aryan culture. And at the same time, he wants to eliminate, which is his arch enemy here, who do you think? So fascism, Nazism on the far right. What's at the far left of the political spectrum? Communism, right? So the Bolsheviks. So the Soviets are his true enemy. We'll talk, actually, somewhat comes to an agreement with them when it comes to achieving this war in Europe and getting back at the Allied powers. All right, but with that, okay, for Hitler, all right, with his living space and this increase of momentum, challenge the Treaty of Versailles, he decides to build up the military. So with the Treaty of Versailles, what was their military limited to? How many troops? You guys remember? Matt?
100,000.
100,000, that's it, right? So Germany's known for their military, participation in their military. Limited to only 100,000. Well, as soon as Hitler comes into power, the Treaty of Versailles is not followed through, right? He starts to build up the military and increasing it. The Allied powers, are they weak? Are they strong? What are they? The League of Nations, the Allied powers. Are they strong here, Connor? Not really, right? So do you think they're going to stop him? No, they're not. So in any case, the Allied powers, just trying to avoid war at all costs, they say, hey, we'll let you build up your military, but when you look to maybe claim more land, let's calm down. Okay, maybe we went too far when it comes to the Treaty of Versailles. Right? We apologize, but we just want to avoid war at all costs. And Hitler's like, yeah, no problem. But do you think that's going to stop him? These negotiations? No. So in many cases, the Allied powers appease Hitler, which means they grant concessions to him. They say, hey, we'll give you a little bit, right? We will give you a little bit of land here, but just don't advance anymore. So you remember that chunk of land in between France and Germany? It was kind of fought back and forth there for a bit. Alsace-Lorraine, the Rhineland, that territory. Okay, well, Hitler decides to march his troops in there, solidify it, to militarize it again. And France, do you think they do anything? You think Great Britain do anything? Yeah, do you think they do anything? No, they just allow it to happen. So this is already Hitler kind of stepping out, dipping his toe in the water, so to speak, when it comes to challenging the Allied powers. And he does so, and they don't do anything. So this allows him to maybe look for more, to maybe claim more land. And that's exactly what happens. So in the spring here, right, in the spring, as when in the spring of 1938, so right around when this Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, was happening, right, he decides to continue this movement, continue this aggressive expansion, to claim back the land of Germany, Lebensraum, right? So after he claims back this Rhineland, militarizes it, France realizes now that Germany has a sizable force. What about France, Great Britain? Were they building up their militaries at this time? No, because they believed that the war to end all wars was hit. It says it in the name, literally. But that wasn't going to happen, honestly. Hitler's just infusing more of this nationalistic pride through the military. And the German people see this second breath of fresh air. Yeah, wow, here we are again. We're going to become a strong world power. So the next thing he does, well, he looks to Austria, of all places. Okay, so we already remember Austria with that alliance with Germany at the start of World War One. Okay, Austria, Hungary, yeah, remember that? Okay, good. So with Austria, they have a similar culture to Germany. They speak somewhat a similar language as German here. So Hitler decides what better way to try to expand this German nationalism and challenge the Allied powers than to just march right into Austria and just take it, right? Use our military, try to wow the people, parade around the town, and to try to spark this nationalistic gains once again. And that's exactly what he does. He marches down into Austria with this huge military, and there's not even a fight. Austria sees this large military. They see the new advancements with some of their military technology, and they just allow it to happen. So with Hitler and the Nazis, they just march into Austria and take the land for themselves. No fights, no type of conflict, and they call that the Anschluss, right? So Hitler claims Austria just by marching into it. No fights, nothing happened, right? So if you're Austria, you're kind of feeling the effects too of this depression. You see what's happening under Hitler's rule. You're like, wow, okay, they're back up on their feet with this new leader. And we have somewhat of a similar culture and language, so why not just join it? And as soon as they march their military right into Austria, they just accept it. All right, so the next thing here is there's another chunk of land, which you already had your map quiz, right? Well, we're gonna have our map quiz next week. You already had your map activity for Friday. So you guys should know a little bit where these lands are, where these countries are. So the Sudetenland is the western portion of Czechoslovakia. It is the western part of it. And this land too belonged to, well, guess who? Germany, right? During World War One, before World War One. So they thought, well, we can just kind of march right in. I know my part, yellow country right here by Germany. Well, I would, but they're kind of dated back to World War One. I'll show you. But anyway, with the Sudetenland, this is the western portion of Czechoslovakia. Again, he marches right into Sudetenland and pretty much takes it over, no problem. The Allied powers finally try to say, hey, pump the brakes here, stop. We don't want to see another conflict. We don't want to see another war. And what was Hitler's excuse for taking this? What was his answer? Well, they have German culture. They speak the German language. It makes sense. It makes sense for us to take it over. There were a lot of skirmishes, a lot of conflicts in these lands because kind of intermixing of people, the intermixing of these different cultures. So he said, I'm just solving a lot of the issues, solving a lot of the problems with the confusion of mixing all these cultures and all these languages together. All right. So he decided, well, I'm going to be the person that kind of resides over this. I'm going to take this land back for Germany. And what does that do for German nationalism? It boosts it. Okay. And at the same time, Hitler's viewed as this person that is kind of solving the grievances, solving the conflicts in Central Europe by claiming these lands back that were once German. But the Allied powers see this as a step, again, approachment, okay, this aggressive advancement, and they want to try to step in now. Because if they let this ball continue to roll, it's only going to get ugly. It's going to just move for more pace and more land that he's looking to claim. Lebensraum, right? Living space. So with that, Neville Chamberlain, which is one of your terms, he was the Prime Minister of Great Britain before Winston Churchill. I'm sure you guys heard of Winston Churchill before. So Chamberlain comes into play and he says, hey, we're going to have a meeting. We need to try to start some sort of conversation, some sort of agreement here before this gets too carried away. And that we see another conflict, another war happen. So the Munich Conference in 1938, you see Hitler there in the bottom right picture. Mussolini's there as well. So, you know, that Mussolini, Hitler got the best buds. Then you have Chamberlain of Great Britain coming in and signing a paper with Hitler, Mussolini, showing peace in our time. That's what he says. He actually comes back to Great Britain after constant negotiations, constant talks with Hitler to try to avoid another war. And Hitler signs the paper. He says, yeah, you know what? We're done after taking the Sudetenland. That's it. No more advancement. We don't need to expand anymore. Do you think Hitler's going to really follow through that agreement? Do you think he cares about signing these agreements and just kind of stabbing the person in the back? Well, yeah, he doesn't care at all. So yeah, he signs a Munich Pact, the Munich Conference right here. And there's Chamberlain, he's waving the paper, and this was broadcasted all over Great Britain and the world, showing that Hitler signed this paper, signed this agreement, that he won't expand his territory anymore. But, well, that seems to backfire pretty quick. So Chamberlain kind of looks like a fool in a way, as this didn't really work out in his behalf, work out in his favor. We know Hitler's not going to stop. He's just going to keep on advancing. He's just going to keep moving. So we'll talk. This is what Europe's going to look like under Hitler's power, under his control in 1942 in the bottom right picture. All in red there is Nazi control, is German control. You can see it's pretty much all of Europe, right? Almost all of Europe, right? All right, so real quick, last thing, right? He does take all of Czechoslovakia then. So he decides, well, the Sudetenland's not enough. We're just going to take all of Czechoslovakia. And the Allied powers still do nothing. They're like, wow, please stop. So after he takes all of Czechoslovakia, Great Britain and France say, we need to ally with Poland because that's the next target. If he tries to take Poland, well, this is the start of World War II. Before he does so, he decides to reach out to the next door neighbor on the other side of Poland, and that's who? He reaches out to who? For an agreement. Russia, the Soviet Union, right? And this is where this non-aggression pact comes, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. And this is where Stalin and Hitler, even though they're on two totally ends of the political spectrum, they shake hands. That's what these political cartoons represent. They're shaking hands, but at the same time, you think they can trust one another? No. So it's a lot of these political cartoons, you can see how they're shaking hands at the same time. They have a gun behind their back. They have, let's say, a knife behind their back. And the only reason they're agreeing is because they want to split up Poland, which wants to land. And at the same time, right, they want to make sure that they can have an agreement, for Hitler anyway, to fight the Allied powers on the Western side. Avoid that two-front war. All right, we'll talk about that more tomorrow. See you guys later.